Hi Brian, thanks for the footage and good to see that things are progressing nicely. Particularly happy with the changes that you've made. Just been watching your previous online review just to refresh my memory on the pieces that we suggested you worked on, and the big thing was controlling what the left knee was doing. Now what we wanted was your left knee to flex forward towards the target line for longer, so there was a little bit less emphasis on the left knee working in this way. Excuse me, get the wrong graphic. So there was too much movement of the left knee this way. So the feeling was that the left knee was flexing forward for longer, and that would keep your head within that circle. And what we see here now is as you go back, you can see that the left knee is moving inwards, but moving inwards less because it's flexing forward for longer, and that in turn offsets it. So the left knee is continuously moving towards the target line and into the right knee at a steady rate, and previously you didn't have enough flexing forward. Consequently, as you got sort of midway back, you would lift up and you would move off the golf ball. So all in all, that's improved nicely. What I would start to work on now is just controlling the length of the arm swing. The arm can get a little bit long. The left arm starts to just travel a little bit independently. So if you want a little bit extra length on the swing, rather than lifting the arms, it's just a touch of a lift there, rather than lifting the arms, just continue to turn, extend and tilt, and let that propel the butt of the club for you. So rather than doing it independently with the arms, just continue to do what you're doing with the torso for longer. So feeling like the arms are doing nothing really during the backswing would be a huge help for you. Having said that, massive improvement, much better top of the backswing position than you had previously. I would also, the piece through the ball, there we tend to sort of flex forward again. If you look at your right knee, gains a lot of flex on the way through. If you compare that to say where Charlie Wee is on the way through, you see how the right leg is much straighter. A nice drill for that, and also a nice drill to help you with the other pieces, is to spend some time hitting shots in practice with the right leg completely straight. If you go to the 5th blog that I did on Stack and Tilt a number of years ago now, which is drills and exercises, the drill of hitting shots with the right leg straight is explained in a little bit more detail there. It's also got me demonstrating what to do on it, so that would be a nice protocol for you to visit and have a little look at that drill. But all in all, from face on, in relation to your irons, a much improved movement, the head staying still for longer, much more stacked at the top, and judging by your email, enjoying your golf and striking the ball much better. In regards to the driver, low and left, well, there's a couple of things that are going to help us get height and prevent the ball going too far left, and those two things I've noted down there for you. Bottom centre, Troy Matterson demonstrating that the hips are more forwards. So what I would suggest you do initially is take your normal setup and then push your hips a couple of inches towards the target. And what that's going to do is that's going to create what we call axis tilt. So it's going to create a little bit of side bend to the right. You can see here with yourself is you're very much sort of straight up and down with the centre of the shoulders and the centre of the hips. That also gives the impression that the shoulders on the down the line footage are a little bit open and that the right arm is a little bit too straight. So pushing the hips forward may help realign it, or will help realign the shoulders, and should help just soften that right arm a little bit. The other thing I would do is I would just strengthen the right hand grip a fraction, not a lot, just a little bit, and again that'll help soften up that right arm a little bit more, like you see Charlie Wee on the bottom right hand side of the footage. So what we're looking at here is a little bit more side bend to the right, created by pushing the hips forward. A lot of players create that side bend to the right by moving the weight back, and yeah, the spine bends or leans away from the target, but the centre of gravity now is too far back, swinging across the ball all the time, hitting the ground behind the ball all the time. So not a great move at all. the way we create that side bend to the right that you're seeing here is pushing the hips forward. So you're like this. As you push the hips forward, you would create that side bend that will help launch the ball higher than the side bend we've got here. So the more side bend to the right we can create, the more ability we've got to launch the ball high and also hit out at the ball for longer rather than coming across it, which is typical of someone who's hitting a few pulls. But we'll come to that a little bit more detail when we go down the line. So if we watch what happens with Troy now during the backswing, the downswing in particular, that side bend to the right is increased coming through impact. So, you know, anybody who says that a player can't hit the ball high using stack and tilt, which is a common criticism that we get, doesn't really understand the effect of axis tilt, because I can assure you with that much side bend to the right coming into impact, that ball is not going to launch very low, providing it's the centre of the club face, which he's pretty much going to do every time he makes a swing. With yourself, nice centred backswing, we know that, we just looked at it. But coming into impact, we haven't got as much side bend to the right. Now, a lot of elite players create that by thrusting the hips forward during the downswing. So, you know, even without the hips forward at setup, they manage to create that in the downswing. The majority of club golfers can't do that. The majority of elite golfers can't do that enough. But certainly what we'd want to do is, if we were to push the hips forward a little bit more at address, that would create a little bit more side bend because we've already put extra side bend in there, and that in turn would help get the ball flight up a little bit for you. So it's just a little prop we're putting in there at setup. The difference between your setup and Troy's setup is that his hips are forward more. Let's bring him back down to setup. And that would be the sort of key phrase number one. You know, when you played with your pal and you were saying stack and tilt to yourself on the way round. Well, this time one mantra, particularly with driver in your hand, would be hips forward. So pushing the hips forward towards the target. The next thing we would look at, you just see that little bit of a sort of excessive arm swing that I touched on there. Arms get a little bit long. Just work that in gradually. It's not the end of the world, but it will help. Pretty good delivery position. A few things going on, but with the footage being a little bit blurred, obviously we want to keep this as simple as possible. I don't really want to go into too much detail in this one. Through the ball, too much closing down of the club face. So the club at this point is in a very open position, and by the time it comes through impact, it's started to close down very quickly. So there's quite a lot of release, if you will, rolling of the club face through impact. What we see with players who hit the ball higher is less of a release. Now, put down there no release. Hips forward, no release. Is there going to be a release of the club? Of course there is. But we want less emphasis on the rolling of the wrists through impact. You can see there that that club face is not rolling over violently through impact. Those hands aren't wrapping over excessively through impact. And what that's allowing you to do, or allowing Charlie Wee to do, is maintain the loft on the club face through impact. So the loft is being maintained. So if we have more loft at impact due to less of a release, here we've got a club face that's closing down very quickly, taking loft off it. So we've got a situation where we have limited side bend and a dramatic releasing of the club, as opposed to more side bend because the hips have gone forward. That's the only thing you need to change at setup, by the way, at this stage. And more loft on the club because the club face is not rolling shut as quick on the way through. You can see that's going to produce a higher starting trajectory and a trajectory that's less to the left in regards to its initial starting direction. So To recap, continue the work that you're doing on the left knee and making the thing more stable on the way back. Maybe consider shortening the arm swing a little bit during the backswing. But do that as you see fit and as you feel comfortable with it. But the main thing to take from this, hips forward, no release. Feel like you're going to be very, very quiet with the hands, almost like a pitching action as you come through the golf ball. Take a little bit of getting used to, but you're definitely going to see the ball pull less, and you're going to see it go a hell of a lot higher without necessarily teeing it up too high. You can see they're looking at the golf club. You look like you teed up quite high when you're hitting driver. Maybe not that much need to do that if you put the side bend in at setup. So hips forward, no release. I look forward to looking at your progress over the next couple of sessions that you've got remaining after the package that you purchased over the Christmas period. Well done. Keep up the good work.